I've never done this, and if you look, it's 4 a.m., 4 a.m., and I just woke up out of bed, and I don't know why, but I guess when they say inspiration hits you sometimes. I've heard that my whole life. If you notice in the background, there are colored lights. It's because in my past life, I used to love colored lights and music and dancing and all the regular stuff. However, I'm not that person. That person, he's missed sometimes, but I'm not him anymore. I still try to hold on to fragments. So that's the reason why there's colored lights. Secondly, I don't know why I want to tell this story. I'm not sure. Maybe something just gonna get off my mind. I'm gonna go in the other room so it's less irritating. So, I want to compare two very important parts of my life, and I want to invite others to do the same thing. And I started thinking about the world that we live in today with the way that people utilize technology and the way that things are very much less authentic. And the one thing I wanted to always portray is that I've been genuine my entire life. And that I don't understand the world that we live in where people act and respond a certain way to certain situations or to events that isn't really who they are. And it boggles my mind sometimes. But either way, I want to compare having a business to raising a child. And the funny thing is, there's a lot of people that say your business is your child, your baby, you watch it grow. Now, I'm a very much a startup business with a few people on a team that is learning and fighting to watch that baby grow. It's gone from a small infant where I was planning by myself and learning things to now something that has legs and arms, and it will reach into other people's lives. It will make impact. And I started thinking about that. I'm a father to a beautiful little 4-year-old girl. She's right there. And she's as perfect as they get. But I started thinking about my journey with her. And when she was a little baby, I was probably more focused on things that I should have been. And when she was just a baby. And by the time she was probably 6 months old, I started to focus a lot more on her. And by the time she was a year, that was pretty much it. That has been my focus. And at the same time, I lost the ability to have a family with her mother due to some very unique circumstances that nobody would want to know. And I have been given full custody of my daughter. And I now do some sharing back and forth. But the reason why I'm telling this story is not necessarily about her. It's about the parallels between a business and a child. And I started really considering the things that any entrepreneur faces in their life is that you have to do things on your own. You have to be independent. You have to be motivated. You have to be dedicated. And you have to be willing to tell people that they're wrong, or to fight through animosity that comes from anybody hearing about an idea and saying, oh, it's cute, but it won't work, or whatever. And everybody says this, and everybody knows it, right? You hear about it when you're doing anything. For those who want to know, the business that I'm starting is about helping people in the community find home services. So instead of going to reviews, which are pretty much not real, or can be, and fighting for 10 minutes on a phone line to get people that will tell you a quote or something along those lines, or calling multiple people because they don't do the niche service that you might be looking for, or they don't service your area, or they're not available for until 2 weeks later for a sink that needs to be, um, you know, working properly that's now stopped up and your child can't get into a bath, or for your walk into your home and your lights are flickering, or if you pull into the driveway and you start to notice that the maintenance on the lawn or the gutters or anything like that is not working. If you're anything like me, I knew a lot of people, but I didn't do a lot of those things. And I didn't, quite frankly, didn't know how to do a lot of those things. I didn't grow up probably in a Beaver Cleaver type family where I had, the proper training to understand those things. And it may sound crazy, but I didn't. I was embarrassed that I didn't understand like how to light a pilot on a furnace. I learned, but I was frustrating. So the business is called Intros, Ntros.ai, and like everybody out there, it will, help you connect to a marketplace, but it uses your friends as a connection in your phone to find other friends or other people in the same circle that do the same thing, that do what you're looking for. So the big benefit here is that you're allowing friends to connect through friends groups to find somebody that can help you. So you're keeping the money, so to speak, in a circle of friends. You're helping one another. You're using a technology that's very misunderstood right now in the social media world for good purposes. You're helping your community thrive and get stronger and stronger and more committed to each other. So the thoughts behind this business isn't necessarily that we're doing something that's segregating like many of the AI um, thought processes out there. It's that we're doing something that's ultimately going to help people connect with each other and learn more about how they can work together and build these strong networks that when you have a problem, you're already covered by somebody that you either know or an extended friend that knows one of your other friends, and you create an introduction online. Either way, the concept was genuine. It's simply about ways that we can build our life to be more um, in value and help the people around us. And then I started thinking, this is fatherhood. This is what I've done for the last 5 years. And if anybody, she's going to be 5 in July. And if anybody knows me, they'll probably be able to attribute to the fact that I have done nothing but try to build up the community around my daughter. I've made sure that her influences are cleaned. I've made sure that anybody that comes around her has a certain level of respect for her, for our life situation, and more importantly for myself, so she could see that. I've shown her a level of respect the same way I would a community, except for probably more intense because she's a younger child and she needs to understand that those are the most valuable lessons in life. Um, from the time she was 1 or 2 years old is when I really took over. I really took over being the full-time father, and her mother's didn't. She wasn't as prevalent in her life. She's still there, and she's doing better now, but she wasn't as prevalent. So it's the same thing. During the same time frame, I decided I needed to start a business. How these things work, I just don't know. Timing in the world is so weird. But it's been really, really difficult to balance the two major building blocks in somebody's life. So whether you work for somebody and you are, committed to your position and you find meaning and value in that, you still probably have a family, and having a family and finding meaning and value in that, there's it's an incredible feeling to balance the both. I'm not very good at it. I'm the type of person my whole life that's 100 in this way and 100 out this way, and balance has been a very difficult thing for me. But I see the value in being able to do it, and I see the vision of how I should do it. It's taken me a long time to get there. And once again, I'll go back to the main contents of this. I'm creating this video to share with other single parents that sometimes might wonder, when they don't think anybody is paying attention to them, about the difficulties that we all go through when we're trying to manage all the life's challenges, and still make sure our daughters grow up, or our sons grow up, with the right type of influences and have the right love in their life. And when you're doing it as a single parent, it's damn hard. And anybody who ever says otherwise would be just not me. Anybody who says otherwise probably doesn't understand the same level of value that I'm talking about. And I say that in the kindest way possible. Okay. So I want to go and maybe, like I said, this is the first time I ever did this, so this is very unscripted. I woke up at 4 a.m. You can tell my eyes are still sleepy. I normally look a little better. I woke up at 4 a.m. and said, I'm going to put something online that tells single parents that what they're thinking they have a hard time with doing, they're probably doing well and don't know it. I know this sounds very maybe cocky, but it's not. It's confident. I know I'm a great father. There's not even a question in my mind. It took a while to get there, but I know I'm a great father. I know I've been a great father for the last 3 and almost 4 years. And in that time frame, I've also started a business. As I said before, comparing the two and balancing the two is probably one of the toughest acts I've ever done, especially when you're purely a single parent. You just really don't leave the home, because your business takes you to one street, and then you leave the home, but you don't go very far. And it's not only just lonely. I've started a business before, actually, more than one, and I've been successful, what people would call successful for somebody who comes from a very, a very minimized definition of the word success. I made decent money for a while. I had a boat, all that good stuff, all the toys, and now I lost everything. Some really obscure circumstances happened to me, and it caused me to have a challenging part of life, and I don't know if it's all led towards what I'm doing now, but that's how I justify it, because probably before I probably wouldn't have been such a dedicated, I think I would have been a dedicated father. I might not have had the same value that I do in what I'm doing, maybe. I'm not really sure why I lost everything, but I did. And it's very, very difficult to go to a point of one day having a great deal of, I guess I say, assets, and what you think are friends around you, and what you think are people that would be there for you, and then to lose it all in one shot, or like over a very minimum amount of time, when you put a very lot of time into your life. And when I say everything, I lost a home, I lost everything I had in my life, meaning I lost a motorcycle, for God's sakes. I lost all the things I had in my home. And more importantly, I lost somebody who I trusted and valued. And that's harder, as everybody knows, than probably anything else. I lost my dog, even my dog. I love my dog. So if this looks genuine, it's because I don't know how to be fake. And I've had a lot of people in my life that have shown some level of insincerity that's caused me issues. Stolen money, um, embezzlement, you name it. I've probably been through it. And I'm not telling the story so anybody feels bad. I'm telling the story because I want to motivate others. Because if anybody's able to reach down deep into their soul and do anything that they feel is important or impactful for the world, it's worth it to reach. I'm not there yet, just so we're clear. I have a start of a business. I have a mobile application that's launching in the next 5 days, which is about, like I said earlier, bringing community through a connection through AI means and through using AI to allow people to connect with home service providers for to entrust your most valuable asset, your house. But I'm doing it in a way that's very different than any of the current systems that people are using today, such as any of the Thumbtack, Angie's List, House Pro, House Next Door. All of them use marketing and SEO, and they charge providers this ridiculous amount. That's not my goal here. My goal is literally to make people understand that AI is not a bad thing when you use it the right way, and that it can branch community, and that it can create a really good infrastructure for when you need things done. And I know we're going to be successful because it's a good concept, and not only is it a good concept, but I feel like I have the right keys in place to make sure that this gets put out to the world. But most importantly, this video isn't about that. This video is about explaining the journey that you start from when you are, without anything, and then building into something, and showing that if I'm able to do this, sitting in my little house now. My daughter is actually not here tonight at 4 a.m, which she's with her mother for one of the first times on a Wednesday in a long time, and it bothers me because I miss her here. But more importantly, I had the motivation to share this for some reason with people, because I want people to see that if I can do it under the circumstances I'm dealing with, anybody can do something if you put your real mind to it and your thoughts to it. So how is my 4-year-old now like a business? Well, with a 4-year-old, and let's just go back to when she was 2. When she was 2, she didn't understand the world. She still doesn't. But she then had her, all her body functions were working. And when we were doing potty training, she had to learn that this is where you do things. And then obviously anybody who goes through child raising, you learn that they learn the world as you show them the world. They don't understand why they're doing things. They do it because you tell them. And they do it because you create a structure for them that they can understand, that brings value to their lives. And this is the same thing we're doing with a business. With a business, you're not waiting for somebody else to tell you where to go with it. You try the ideas, and then you don't know how the world, or how developers, in my case developers, or anybody else that looks at it is going to think of it. You guide them. The same way you guide a child to understand the world, you guide people to understand your business. You guide people that really understand your intuition and your innovative concept, or whatever it is that you're doing different. You guide the world to make it to help it understand. And then when the business gets to a point where now people are motivated behind it, it's like your little girl learning that she had to do this a certain way to get the reaction that she wanted. And then when she turned 3, there were times where, and then obviously she's a young child, but there were times where she just doesn't want to go to bed. Well, just like a business, there are times where you need to say, okay, that's enough. It's time to relax. You have to have that ability for the business to go through these growing points where you're jamming and cramming, and then you have to have time for it to absolve, for it to create a resolve within whatever type of formatting you're trying to do that day or that week. And then it has to adjust the same way she did. And then when she gets to be, of an age where now she's capable of doing things on her own and capable more of maybe not full reasoning, but a little bit of reasoning, you start to see your business do the same thing. Your business takes form. It starts to point you in certain directions. And like I said, we're not there yet. But we've gone from what I was creating to be a social connection platform through artificial intelligence to now a home services marketplace with a very niche um, uh, response expected from providers, a very niche type of specification, and a very um, specific type of response that could be given to um, users and providers both, which show them that the community was involved in their connecting, and more importantly, that the community now has some incentive to keep the business floating the way it was. So that's, like, to me, the coolest thing in the world. And granted, it reminds me every day of how my daughter was growing and how people now adapt to her and how I see her when she goes into. Years ago, when I took full custody, I went to one of those. I'll backtrack for a minute. I went to one of those kid playlands, and my daughter was scared to let me out of her sight, and it hurt my eyes. And I don't mean out of her sight like I'm going walking away. I mean like she's playing with other children, and I would play with her with in those ball pits and things like that because I'm a big kid myself. And when I did, the kids would jump on me, and my daughter, her name's Cece. Cece would grab me and pull me away, and she wanted me off her, like kind of herself. And then she would, if I walked away, just to give her time to play with other children, because I thought that was very a good part of what she should be doing, so she could adapt and have fun in her own way. And I wanted her to be her own individual. I would try to do those things. I would try to improvise that I was, helping the other kids learn how to play with her, or trying to interact with them. And she never wanted it. She would literally, like, if I walked away, she would go like hide behind my leg. So she was very nervous, shy, and timid. Um, I'm not saying that's all just because of the upbringing that she had to that point, but part of it is. And we would test this by, I would go upstairs over at my mother's house, and she loves my mother to death. I would go upstairs over at my mother's house, and she would cry, and she would react in a poor way. And I kind of relate this to the things that she saw as a child and the way that she was not handled properly when she was. Um, there was a brief time where I wasn't, where her mother was more in the picture, and she was managing more of her day-to-day life, and I don't like the way she was doing it. So that's when I basically stepped in and said, I'm gonna have to take this over the right way. So I believe that was the reason why she was reacting the way she was. And as painful as that is to admit, I know that's the reason. And it bothered me a lot. But either way, the point I'm making, though, is that was a real challenge for her to get over. But now that she's 4 years old, I take her to a place, and she's loving, kind. She wants to play by herself sometimes, and sometimes she doesn't. But for the most part, she's kind to the children. She doesn't push them away from me. She doesn't get mad if they jump on me, because I'm like I said, I'm a big kid myself. So a lot of kids typically gravitate to me. But either way, it's awesome to see that. And I, once again, relate all of this back to, can you be a good father and a good business owner? I think the two are related. I think actually one teaches you how to do the other one. Granted, very different formats, and the emotional construction of each is, you know, very different in nature, but the overall goals and the overall like vision that you see for both, I think mine is fairly aligned, and I think others should be fairly aligned too. It probably depends on the type of business you have. If you're in home services, for instance, the industry that we're trying to help, because I see so much challenges in it. You know, they probably have a very different lifestyle. You know, they're not looking at a computer 10 hours a day. They're not, you know, home all the time, and or you know, in an office. They're out meeting people. So for them, community is necessary, which is part of the reason why I'm doing this. For my daughter, those things weren't true, but now they are, you know. So anyway, I wanted to just create a video that people would maybe resonate with or not, but it was more or less to just talk about the idea of how you can do both in life, and to, you know, kind of compare what I've done as a father that pays attention, cares, values time with his daughter, and more importantly, values her upbringing being done in a value-driven way, and understands what that means as far as the life commitments that you must make and the dedication that you must, which you must embody to raise, not just a little girl. I mean, I'm sure any, you know, child in your life, but for me, it was my little girl. And the same type of commitment and dedication that you must make to a business that's trying to get off the ground. The same type of dedication you must make to your partners that decide to help you, that see the innovation in the concept. The same leverage that you must learn to understand and use in a proper format when it comes to breaking into different markets. The same type of construction and organization you have for teaching your child values, and for teaching her proper places to put things and the right way to walk through the world, is the same type of mindset you have to have when you're creating the structure for the business and trying to come up with marketing plans and trying to understand revenue models and trying to build into what the long-term vision and the objectives for short term, and how those goals are achieved, and then building a pathway there, and then monitoring that pathway. It's the same way I tell my Cece that, honey, you need to do this, and oh, by the way, you're not doing it, so let's do it together so I can learn with you. And then, oh, let's pick your hand and you move that over there and you do this over here. And it's okay. Like, I used to think, no, I should let her do it on her own. And then I realized that she's a child and she doesn't know what to do on her own. If she doesn't have the right proper instruction and the right, you know, understanding of what it's going to do for her, then she's not going to do it. So you just have to kind of guide them. It's the same thing I'm doing with the business. So anyway, I say this again. I invite others that want to be genuine in a very inconsistent world right now, where authenticity is probably, you know, one of the things that we're going to value very much in the near future, because as we all know, the power of AI is overwhelming, and the power or the minimal effort it takes to create things, create videos and podcasts and all that stuff is, it's really misunderstood right now. And authenticity is going to be the only thing that really separates all of us in the future when it comes to these type of videos or podcasts or anything that somebody does that's of the creative format, because the technology it's just amazing, and it's just going to get better and better and better. So I invite people that want to share their authentic story, and that if anybody wants to know anything else about mine, I'm glad to chat again. But this is the first time I did this, so please take it with a grain of salt. I do appreciate if anybody pays attention or any thoughts you throw back into it. And at the same time, like, I'm not doing this because I want to be a podcaster or a video person. I'm doing it because I just want to tell the world that maybe there's parts of my story that some people might resonate with. I've learned how to do things just based off of being a good person. I don't want to do anything because I want anything back. I want people to resonate and people to grow together, and I want community to be stronger than it is right now, which are all lofty goals that probably a lot of people have had in their life. But I'm going to do something to help, to help, make those goals more of a reality. Our application is built around this exactly, and I see it growing in different ways that allow people to really, make an effect on their community. We're creating a model that people will be able to share contacts with other people within the application, and they'll be incentivized for it. But keep in mind, it's all AI in the backbone. So we're using AI to help our community, and we're creating some revenue structure for people that simply in the future would, if they just want to introduce people to other people. So the concepts are awesome. They're raw, and I would love anybody's feedback or thoughts. I'll put a link in like this video somewhere if I can, when I post it. But I'd really love any thoughts or feedback. And CC says bye. And like I said, it is really 4 in the morning. I did just get up, and there is no good lighting areas in this house, or at least not where I'm at. All right. Take care.